Hey guys, it's Josh, and welcome back to the Not So Bad Bachelor Pad, your favorite podcast for learning how to balance between being a functional adult and a raging dumpster fire. Some days we're really heavy on the dumpster fire. Joining me today inside the Bachelor Pad is Devon Ash. Devon, thank you so much for agreeing to meet with me on the weekend. I know there are so many other things that you probably would love to do, but we're glad that you're with us today.
Right on.
Um, yeah, can you tell us a little bit about just your story and how you got here today?
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for having me. Um, it is a rainy day here, so I'm very happy to be doing this podcast on a rainy Saturday. I don't need to be outside right now. Yeah. So my story. I mean, I'll try to give you the kind of condensed version of it. Basically, growing up, I moved around a lot, and I had to become social. Like I had to develop a level of social acumen that allowed me to get into a new school and figure it out right away and adapt and find my way into community, or maybe if I could get a girlfriend or something like that. So every year until my last year of high school, I did 2 years at in Vegas university as well. I did 2 degrees, kind of different schools, but basically I had to just figure it out. And I became like a natural, someone who could just talk to anyone, build relationships everywhere I go. And that was great, except when I really wanted a particular outcome, I would blow it because I would get nervous. The thing is, like, naturals get nervous too when the pressure's really on. I know what I was doing, I was just good at it. In grade 10, I went to Columbine High School. So I wasn't there for the incident.
Okay.
As I said, I was in school in Vegas for 2 years, and then I went to university back in Canada. And the incident happened in my first year of university for it, but it felt real close to home. So I was pretty freaked out, and I was upset by the possibility of my little brothers are 10 years younger than me, and I was worried about what kind of world they were growing up into. But I'm finishing up university and diagnosed with skin cancer on my face. And
Gee.
so at 23, I have to have major reconstructive surgery. I don't know if this is going to be on camera, but all the way across here, there's just this big scar. And fortunately, it's in the lines of my face. But the big ass scar for, a 23-year-old to deal with, reconstructive surgery on their face. I went into a depression. I became kind of a recluse. I couldn't talk to girls I was attracted to. I couldn't. I didn't feel confident to put myself out there in social situations. I kind of just the friends that I had built. I just kind of glommed onto them and just tried to lay low. But there was a point where I was like, man, I see this big world out there that I want to explore, and now I don't have the confidence that I used to have. So I started looking at it. Why? Like, what was I doing before that was different? It wasn't just my face. I mean, I'm an okay looking guy, but it's not like every single super confident person that I would look around and see was good looking. There was something else. So I was like, okay, well, maybe there's some underlying behavioral things. So I started learning about the behavioral arts, understanding
Yeah.
attraction, understanding social psychology, evolutionary psychology, cognitive behavior therapy, and just started exploring like how we engage with each other. And I saw patterns, and I started integrating these patterns. And lo and behold, a lot of the things were the things that I was doing before when I was a natural, but almost like I had to lose it to truly find it and to understand it and then to be able to teach it. So about 16 years ago, I started Social Fluency. We work with businesses. We've worked at Apple. We've worked at Google. We've worked at YouTube, teaching their teams how to be more confident, teaching their teams how to be more socially cohesive, teaching engineers how to communicate effectively so that they can like kind of like, you know, get their ideas across to the rest of the team. And I've also worked with thousands of men, teaching them how to communicate more effectively, be better daters, be better partners, just be better men in community.
Yeah, well, I mean, hey, it's a beautiful story, and it's wild to just see how much you've gone through in such a short amount of time. Because, like you said, even though you weren't there for the incident, being a year out, there were probably still people who you knew who were there. So, like I said, that you know, it really brings it close to home and humanizes it for you, especially. So, like I said, we're just happy that you're finding your major way, and also skin cancer survivor. Like I said, that's a huge thing. So, Devon, one thing that I've been really wanting to ask you is, have you ever noticed a pattern or a trend where men especially have a hard time being or embracing their authentic selves?
Currently work with men, so I'd say we can definitely frame this around men, but I would say us, men and women. I think it's like just the post social media kind of time, and we're all struggling to express ourselves and not be overly concerned with what other people are thinking. I mean, I think women are struggling with it just as much. Let's talk about men because that's what, you know, you and I are specialists in, but I wouldn't say that it's specifically a man problem. I'd say it's a modern problem. Um and you know, I'll bet it, you know, like because it's scary to put yourself out there. Um I think men are stuck between a rock and a hard place these days, it feels like, between being a masculine emotions, and the world sort of seems to want us to be for everyone, or nothing for anyone. Also, how a lot of men feel is just like there's no place for them. Hopefully we'll talk a little bit of a way to look at this stuff, but I think there's a real problem when able to formulate avatars, and then there's also the real version of us
Yeah.
walking around, and there's a conflict of am I meant to be this version of myself that I'm trying to create? You know, this is also the problem with self-development. I want to be better, but love myself as I am. So that dichotomy of growth and acceptance, I think, is a similar challenge. But let's talk about it still through the lens of authenticity. So yeah, I think where guys get really fucked up is where they think they have to be this or that, and really what you want to be is you want to be someone who can adapt to the as authentically as possible. And the guys that I work with, the advice that they've heard throughout their life: be yourself. Just be yourself. Like don't try to be anything other than yourself. And it's such a ridiculous thing to say, because you can't be anything
Yeah.
other than yourself unless you're having some kind of crazy DMT trip where you're like God. You're not going to be anything other than yourself in it. So you're super nervous because there's a beautiful woman over there. Being yourself is not going to be very attractive because she doesn't want a guy who's super nervous right now. She wants a guy who's, you know, been here before and can like hang and be playful and has dated beautiful women before. She doesn't want to be with a guy who's like, oh my God, this is my one chance. If I blow this, I'll never get another chance. Like, yeah, consider it blown at that point. So being yourself is, in one way, it's great advice. Being yourself and being yourself, great. But in another way, it's really not helpful because I feel nervous. I feel nervous. If I feel confident, I feel confident. I'm just going to be myself all the time. Or would it be more helpful if I had tools? Would it be more helpful if I had systems, if that I could kind of lean on, templates that I could kind of move between? And so, what social fluency is all about is your best self. Be your best self. Be a version of you that is hanging out as friends and is playful and is having a good time and is messing with people. That version of you is very likable, very attractive. And so how do we do that is we do drills and we start to kind of break down and understand why certain behaviors are so attractive and why certain behaviors are so repulsive. And repulsive is it's a serious sounding word, but it's the right word.
Yeah.
You either attract or you repulse, right? And so guys need to recognize that. I think before we hit play, you were telling me about like a hand-me-down polo that someone might be wearing. And exactly, that's repulsive, like you have to be aware that it's kind of like there's a polarization here, and you're either going to attract or you're going to repulse, or you're going to be invisible to people and they're not even going to notice you. So, one of them is humor. So, and a lot of guys I work with are like, oh, I'm pretty funny. And I'm like, okay, like, that's great. But what kind of humor do you naturally go towards? So, self-deprecating. Yeah, go ahead.
That's actually, sorry, I was like, that's actually a really good distinction that I never thought about, because a lot of people do. They say that also, like, oh my God, I'm funny, or people think I'm funny. But I was like,
Yeah,
funny how and
exactly.
funny where?
Exactly. Monkey
Yeah.
funny. Good. Well, people might be entertained by you, but they're not going to be attracted to you. So what we
Right.
teach is something called high
Exactly.
status humor. So how to be funny in a way that attracts people, men and women. And it's a mix of teasing and messing with people, but also some self-deprecation. If you're just doing self-deprecation, it communicates low status, it communicates self-esteem, it communicates nervousness, and it's kind of like, I'm going to make fun of myself before you can. You're just making fun
Right.
of other people, you're kind of a dick, right? So if you're always making fun of other people, you're a dick. If you're always making fun of yourself, you're shy, insecure and low self-esteem. Yeah, the balance
Insecure, yeah.
is about 50-50, where I'm 50% of the time I'm making fun of people and 50% of the time I'm making fun of myself. Oh, and then there's formulas within high status humor. There's ways to exaggerate things, or to use a reversal, or to play something down, or point out how there's too much of something. So there's these things that we teach our students to go out and see. So when you see it, that's the first step. You start being like, oh, wow, actually opportunities to make, I don't like to call them jokes, but to like kind of be funny and humorous, make humorous statements everywhere. Like, God, they're everywhere. I look around, I'm just like, oh, there's opportunity for fun and levity everywhere. And then you have to construct it. You have to be able to like put it into a package that doesn't lower your status, but increases it and makes people think, oh, this guy's confident, this guy's funny, this guy's, and then you have to deliver it. So that's where body language comes in, and that's where the voice work that we do comes in. So what we're trying to bring to guys is ultimately helping men be themselves, but be that version of themselves that people find super. What we have found is when guys implement this almost across the board, pretty much every time, I feel more like myself than I was before. Because before they were wearing a mask, but it was like a defensive mask, layer. And now they have tools to go out and to drop the mask, just have a good time. So counterintuitively, by learning these techniques for yourself. And that's the goal.
And I love that. I don't know why this popped in my head, like as you were saying that, but it just reminded me of like a nut, how nuts have like this shell. And I was like, it's still a peanut, it's still a cashew, it's whatever nut you want it to be. But like when you're like really yourself, you're just a raw nut,
Just a raw nut.
Whatever's underneath, just exposed.
An
Raw nut. And
exposed raw nut.
Love a raw nut. 100%. That's
Yeah.
gonna live
Make
in
a
my head for a
t-shirt.
while. That's gonna be my Roman Empire. I'm just trying to show you my raw nut. Yeah. We'll go 50-50 on the proceeds for that. No, no, but I love high
Yeah.
was it high status humor? I love that just concept in general because you're right. There is a balance. There's a sweet spot of the type of humor that you can implore to people that borders the line of cheeky or being a dick. And 9 times out of 10, nobody is really
Mm-hmm.
attracted to a dick. Sorry, they just get
Mm-hmm.
left alone. But also, like, you're right. When you're always just taking little chips at yourself, it makes people question how much confidence you actually have in yourself, what you're
Yeah.
providing, your self worth. And they're like, well, if you don't really believe in you or rate yourself like highly, why would I? What are
Yeah.
you bringing to the
Yeah.
table? Maybe we're better as friends, or
Yeah. Totally.
and that's the zone we all want to stay away from.
Oh yeah.
The friend zone is something that I'm okay
Yeah.
never
Yeah.
reaching
Brutal.
again.
I agree. I think the ultimate combination for people, for men, speaking to men, is a mix of humor and really solid body language, then the bold of approaching and the boldness of striking up conversations with people. Of my whole doing this for 6 years, so I'm like an old man over here on the topic.
Listen, you could almost
Exactly, I'm
retire at this
close.
point, right? Yeah.
Pickleball all 24/7. That's my plan. But I think this was my model, but even more now. While everyone is online trying to find dates on the apps and like that, if you're the guy who can have a fun, casual, playful conversation with one, not just beautiful women. This is an important piece about social fluency, is it's transferable to everyone, and you have to be using it with everyone. Your date can't live in a vacuum. It has to be part of your life. And so if you're the person who can stand out from the crowd by being the guy who chatted her up at Whole Foods or at a little cat, or walking at the beach or walking down the street in whatever the main Nashville is, like being the guy who's just charismatic and playful, be over the top. You don't have to be like the playboy type guy. You can have like a quiet confidence, but it comes through in your body language. It comes through in like the subtle use of humor, and then having the boldness to strike up conversations with people. Those three things mixed together in the right combination makes, it is the secret sauce, and women are desperately looking for guys who possess those qualities and who can kind of bring us all back to a bit of a more human time when we, did that as a regular thing. You talk. I was just looking at and it was like, meet cute NYC. Do you know these guys? It's the idea is
Okay.
they go
Yeah. Yeah.
around and
Yeah.
they
I've
just
seen some of their
interview
posts.
people. How'd you guys meet? And I wrote to them just to find out because I'm curious. But like, they always are not always, but it seems like they're asking older couples a lot, because I'll bet the younger couples are just like, how do we meet? Was it Bumble or no? It was Hinge. It was Hinge, wasn't it? Hinge. And it's like, that's not a fun
The
story. No one
Hinge.
wants to tell that
Yeah.
story. They want to tell the story of like, oh, we were actually, it's kind of a crazy story. We were blah 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 blah, whatever the story is. And man, women want to tell that story.
Yeah.
Give them that story.
Listen, I would say the story is so important for women. So guys, if you're listening, like get real close right now. The story will get you so
Agreed.
far in your relationship. Because if you create a story that she's going to remember for the proposal, for the first date, for any significant moment in life that she can share with her gal pals, with her family, with anybody,
And the most
you're
important
locked in.
story, the most common
And you're
story is,
right.
how did you guys meet? And the best story to tell is, funny story. I was sitting in a cafe and this guy comes in, and like, what that does is it creates gravity. So if you're an online dater, you have no gravity. You're floating, and there's hundreds. I don't know if you've seen the back end of a woman's dating app, but it is thousands
Heavy.
of guys being
Yeah.
like, hey, you're pretty. All trying these different things to stand out, but they're standing out in a sea of the same shit. Whereas if you're the guy who met her
Right.
in the real world, there's a gravity. She wants this one to work. She genuinely is like, I want
Hmm.
this one to work because he was bold enough and he got out of his comfort zone, and I inspired him enough to say hi and do that scary thing. And I get that it's scary. And women get it. Women who understand and have, got any maturity behind them understand that approaching and striking
Right.
up a conversation is scary as hell. They never do it. So must be pretty scary.
Yeah.
So they know if you did it, they want a guy like that's a man with potential. That's a man who's going to create opportunities in his life. So when you have that ability to arm in your life and chat with people, sky's the limit. I just had every week I do 2 calls with my students, and one of the
Okay.
guys was just saying that he went to a networking event for his business and he's never had this experience before, but he was chatting with the VP of something. He was chatting with some C-level person. He was getting chatted with this one woman who was like high up, and he pitched her an idea and she said, I like it. And she gave him her personal line and was like, let's get this started next week. And so this doesn't just apply. Like the person who's willing to strike up conversations with like anyone, that person has such crazy potential. And we all see those people. They just have access to, it's like the skeleton key to the city. You can get into any door.
Right. Yeah. And that's one of the things that I really focused on early on in my self-development journey. And anytime I start off with a new client is I was like, you want to be the guy who doesn't just have the best, you're not in the best couple. You just have the best relationships, whether that's with your family, like you were giving the example, in work. If you can talk to the administrative VP, like exec side, as well as you talk to your peers on your team, like the
Game
sky's really
changer.
the limit for you. And you're right, being able to approach is huge. Especially if you are an entrepreneur. I feel like those people are probably the best at in real life dating because we do so many
Totally.
elevator pitches or we sell a product so often. So I was like, if you could stop a stranger and try to get them to invest $100,000 into you, finding somebody on the street that you think a dime or a diamond or a supermodel that catches your eye, you're going to be
Yeah.
able to do the same thing. You're
Yeah. And
practicing
I would
like you
say,
play.
like, great metaphors. I'd say that the romance, the biggest sales pitch, the biggest sale of your life. That's the big, literally trying to create a partnership where you're going to make a baby together potentially, if that's the path that person wants. Like that's a big commitment. That's like if you're in businesses,
The
the
ultimate
ultimate merger.
merger.
Yeah. If you're an investor in businesses, you can invest in a
Perfect.
few businesses. But if you're like trying to find a partner, you're hoping that's the one. So, there's a lecture on it. It's scary. And there's not a lot of good information on how to do it effectively. There's a lot of pickup artist stuff out there, but I really,
I agree.
and I'm sure there's some good stuff out there. Really what it comes down to me is flawless fundamentals around social skills. And all you have to do is just harness it and direct it into dating or into career or into platonic relationships or into family dynamics. It's still assertiveness. It's still humor. It's conversational agility. It's still how to manage your body line. You feel nervous. All of these things apply regardless. Like, I'm coming up on 5 years, as I said. I'm still messing with my wife using high status humor, trying to maintain body language when I
Yeah.
feel some tension between us and I have to say something that doesn't, necessarily feel good for either of us, but it needs to be said. Like that's life. That's
Right.
relationships and it never goes away.
You're right. You can't avoid the hard conversations, but all you can do is try to set up the best
Yeah,
circumstance
exactly.
to deliver them. And that's also one of the reasons. And you
Hmm.
may or may not agree with me. I used to be heavy in the apps, like all day, every day. You name it, I was probably have. I've been on that app at least twice. But realistically, I've started to realize that the easier form of dating is in real life. Trying to stand out and in an ocean on any app is next to impossible. And sure, you might be able to captivate 30 seconds of somebody's day with a great pickup line if you have it. But I'm trying to catch
Yeah.
a big fish here. You know, I'm not trying to catch one of those small little baby little, goldfish. I was like,
Yeah.
I need a big, I need a 6 pound catfish right here, to 10 pounder.
Maybe not.
Because you're right. Like, not a
That,
catfish. Well,
yeah.
you're actually
Yeah.
right. Definitely not a
Penguin.
catfish.
Yeah. Yeah. There we
A
go. There we
bass.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A beautiful
Perfect.
bass. That's what I'm trying to catch. Anybody can create the perfect scenario when you have unlimited time to come up with a response, to craft a profile, and edit a picture. However, it takes a lot less effort to just craft a unique scenario in real life, because you're
Yeah.
already
You're
in
there.
it. I was like, you don't have to worry about the is she gonna swipe right? Is she gonna swipe left? Is this gonna pop me up higher in the standings? I was like, no, you're already in front of the person who you fancy. That's half
Yeah.
the game on the app. So just being able to live in that moment and just have
Yeah.
that conversation
100%.
here, it's more memorable. Because I was like, how many people can you really, if you were to see a person that you swiped on in real life,
Yeah.
would you remember?
No.
Probably not.
The problem is it's scary to be rejected. So the apps allow us to do it all rejection. They just didn't see my profile yet, and I'm sure we'll match, and then you forget by the next day. Whereas in the real world, it's scary as hell. But an interesting thing happens is the easy way of app dating gets hard when you go on a date. So the easy way of risk-free, when you get, she's like another one, and she's got all these guys, into her DMs, and she's like, impress me. Impress me. Whereas the hard way, which is the approach, you have to do some prep work. You have to get your style dialed in. You have to work on your voice. You have to work on your body language. You have to be ready for the moment it arrives. And it's hard. It's scary. It's damn scary. Obviously not doing a lot of approaches these days, but get it. But let me tell you, that first date, street. If you did the approach, she's with her friends. Oh, a guy today who approached me at Whole Foods. They're like, oh my God, tell us how it goes. Because everyone's just used to these little avatars, and it's like, oh, I met him on an app, and I hope he looks close to what his pictures say. Versus this girl now who's like,
Right.
okay, I know what he looks like. I know we had a good energy. Oh, that he's got options because coach, and he approached me. I hope this works. She's in her mind now thinking, I hope this works. Shifts power dynamic, because I'm telling you guys, it. When you guys are going on these dates from an app, you do not have the power in that scenario. Versus when you are meeting them in the real world and you go on the date, it's not that you have the power, it's that it's equal now. She sees a confident man, and you see her as a beautiful woman that you want to get to know. And now, I had a female friend say, if a guy was to approach me, even if I wasn't attracted to him, she was single at the time, obviously, but she's like, even if I wasn't attracted to him, I would say yes, within reason. If he had gone,
Right. Yeah.
but he just didn't have that kind of face that she likes normally or whatever. She's like, I would still at least go on a date with him because he was willing to do that scary thing. And who knows? I like a guy who's able to create opportunities.
Women are kind of starting to be done with bad boys and be more into bold boys,
Mm-hmm.
or, bold men. Because you're right. I was like, hey, trying to change a person, nobody wants a project. That's not what I want in a relationship. But I do love rewarding risky behavior, so to speak. Because I've been approached by women and I was like,
Yeah.
hey, I love it.
Really?
Sweep me off my feet, woo me.
Differently.
I was like,
finish your thought on this. I always feel like I'm getting bamboozled.
No,
I almost feel like I'm about to lose a kidney or something.
Yeah. It's like I'm in the
gonna wake
Twilight
up
Zone.
in
I was
an
like,
ice
I kind of
bath
just
with a big cut through my stomach.
so Listen, this is something that I hear the kids. I
Mm.
hate calling them the kids because I'm not that old, but this is what I hear everybody says nowadays. It's for the plot,
Hmm.
and I love when just somebody takes the chance and like chats me up or I chat them up because you're right. Even if it's not somebody you typically go for, I was like, I want to further the plot because there was something here that I
Cool.
have to get to the
I like
bottom
that
of,
frame.
I have to inspect. It's intriguing. It's like Alice, I was like, you got to go through the
Yeah,
through the rabbit hole. There's just something about that person. And that's another thing about the approach that I love is it creates so much mystery, but also at the same time it takes the
exactly.
guessing away
Totally.
from the dating game. What on both sides, I feel like that'll
Yeah.
always pull somebody in. Everybody loves
Hmm.
a good mystery.
The object one's affection too. So when someone is confident enough
Of
to put
course,
themselves
yeah.
out there, there's like a, oh yeah, that feels good. Um, yeah. So I mean, men and women, we can all approach. We all have that ability. I have a female coach, and she works with the women who come through our door. And what she teaches them is more so how to attract and how to create opportunities for the man to take action. What that does is it, in my experience personally, in all the relationships that I've had that have been really great, which is, honestly, it's been most of the had, was the pursuer. I was the one who saw a girl and said, I got to go talk to her. And then, like with my wife, I was at a park, saw her standing, and I was like, "Oh shit!" Walked in with my buddy, and I knew, we both looked at her. We both liked him, and he was like probably gonna play the long game. Excuse me. And so I just walked over and chatted with her right away, and yeah, the rest is history. But
Yeah.
um, I think if guys would do the heavy lifting now to develop themselves, the opportunities will present themselves to you. The opportunities already are presenting themselves to you. You're just not ready. But when you do this work and you get ready, everything changes.
So, it's relevant, but it's,
Okay.
it's going to be a little bit of a segue. I was just a guest on another show, and one of the topic was, are women the problem with dating apps? And my counterpart, who was also another guest with me, we kind of brought up the point of we've grown up in this area of being rejected, and kind of doing a lot of intrinsic work, even if we don't
Mm,
realize that's what we're doing. Women, no matter who they are, if you go through their dating apps, their inbox is always full. Whether it's social media
yeah.
app, like any app, their inbox is always full. So they have the luxury of rejecting a lot. And when you have that power to reject a lot of people, you don't really see there's anything wrong with you, or hey, maybe I need to
Right.
change this about me. Dates aren't going my way, but I think his name was Drew. He had a point that there is a really beautiful gift that we're given when we get rejected. For a lot of guys, it may be just the spark they need to start really working on themselves, whether that's investing in their health, investing in their wardrobe, in
Mm,
their career, so many things that you get turned down for that could really be the straw on the camel's back that breaks you and forces
yeah.
you into your next journey. But you're right, a lot, but sometimes it also is
Yeah.
wrong place, wrong time. As much as we think that this person's going to be our person or it's really what we want, this wasn't meant for
Yeah.
you, at least not right now. You need a little bit more time to polish yourself up, and then you might get another chance at this person or
Yeah.
somebody of a higher
Yeah.
caliber.
I mean, the problem, I think themselves are the problem.
Oh,
Yeah. I
100%.
mean, men are going to try to match with the highest value mate possible, right? From like a evolutionary standpoint, women want to mate with the alpha, the or someone in the top echelon, because that's the best thing for genetic line. If they pass on their genes to the alpha's family and community is going to take care of that child, and they're going to better access to resources, water, um, food, safety, other mating opportunities. It's in their best interest to go for the highest quality male. But those guys, dating, they're not trying to settle down. They're just like, yeah, I'll just sleep with as many women as I can. That's great. And they're just, they're piling into my DM. So these top level guys having crazy access, and then women are by them after, a few days of sex, and then the guy's like, I'm not interested in a relationship right now. And then she thinks, okay, I could get a guy like that. That one just wasn't ready for a relationship. So that's the I should be
Right.
going for. And it's skewed everyone's perception mate value in the market. Like a lot of guys who are like 7s and 8s, or 6s and 7s even, if we were 50 years ago and they lived in a small town, if the top guy got the top girl, then they would just match. They would just, find a partner who is at their level. But now what's happening is these top 5% of men are getting access. 95% of guys are just getting almost nothing. And the apps are all skewed with how many guys are on, like way more men on these apps than women. So like
Right.
women are leaving the apps in droves, because like, I don't want
Yeah.
that anymore, because they're just basically having a bunch of sex. Not that women don't want to have sex, but they're not getting the final outcome that they're hoping for, which is a relationship, which is the final outcome almost everyone's hoping for to a certain degree. Like 99% of people, at least,
Exactly.
most people want a relationship. So, anyways, yeah, it's kind of. I do hope that in the next 10 years we move away from it, because we're really screwing with evolution in a way. Think about it. We're taking body
Right.
language and the way people pheromones and all these sorts of things, we're taking it out of the equation, and we're just having these algorithmic, particular demographic things that the app wants us to match based on, but that's not what creates real connection. So yeah, it's a very weird world.
I always joke that we're going to end up in a Wall-E
Totally.
society, just where nobody walks anymore. I was like, we don't have to talk to each
Totally.
other, or I was like, as problematic as I say the apps are, also people we're also the problem. Guys,
Mm-hmm.
like men and women too, which goes back to our first point is authenticity. Authenticity is people are either afraid or they're playing the game. I was like, and they're not really
Mm.
talking about what they want, because like you said, I was like, there are women who just might be going through a breakup or whatever, or just like sex. There's nothing wrong with that. There are men who just like sex. There are men who want
Yep.
quality relationships. There are women who want quality relationships. But I was like, you think you have to set this trap of, oh no, I'm a great guy wanting a quality relationship, when you might just want
Yep.
some sex, or vice versa. And when we enter into these situations, I mean, that's how you get that high value woman being rejected by that guy, is because she thought she was here for a relationship. He knew he was here for something else. And now you create this
Mm.
disparity between the two. And it just has a trickle down effect. I agree. I wish we could move away from the apps, but even when we move away from the apps, I really want us to focus on being honest with others,
Mm.
ourselves and other people. Because that can be part of the approach, depending where you're at situationally. Being honest and be like, it's spring break when we're recording this episode for like a lot of
Sure.
college age,
Yeah.
people. Spring flings are a thing because people are like, we know, like, hey, we're here for a situation. I'll know you for a week. Let's have a beautiful, like, little saunter. They don't say, like, you know what, I'm going to marry you. I was like, yeah, I'm looking. No, that's not what we do here. Let's just be honest with each other. And I think if we can have quality relationships of any duration, that'll just help
Yeah.
move us forward, and it'll get people back to the
Yeah.
approach. Like you were saying, if you knew that like somebody that you'll never meet again, and you have the confidence to talk to them and it
Totally.
works out, you hit it off. What's to stop you from bringing that same energy back home from the
Yeah.
girl you've been crushing on for a month
Absolutely.
or at work, and saying, hey, do
Yeah.
you want to grab a drink?
In today's market,
Well,
I'm
yes,
like, don't
yes,
fuck around with at work. There's women all over. But yes, I totally agree. Like, willingness to put yourself out there goes such a long way, and it really get boldness points. When you're the one who is willing to be bold, you get massive points just for that alone. So yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think it's it's girl for. I mean, ultimately, like the kind of it's a funny thing. The youth, man, they got such good stuff. They're so
They do.
clever.
They're so
But yeah, it's
clever.
for the plot. Like truly, like you got a life here. You got like this adventure that you're on. Do you want it to just be, watching, Netflix or playing video games or, doing that one thing that you do all the time? No, you want it to be diverse and interesting and scary and exciting and funny, and you want it to have some range. So, be bold, take that and see what happens.
Speaking of for the plot, like you said, I really love that because view your life and you don't want to have any regrets. You want it to be a page
Mm,
turner, so to speak. And I think part of that is because we want to be remembered, but we also want longevity in any relationship. Like you said, you're going on 5 years. I'm sure not every page in your guys' relationship was fireworks. There were probably some dull moments,
for sure.
that moved your story along. But you never forget
Mm-hmm.
those really big moments. And I know that when we have more interpersonal connections, that we just create more and more of those bigger memories for ourselves, and hopefully if you find your partner that in their story too, and that's something that you can pass down to your kids or the next generation. Because one thing that I've noticed, I'm
Nice.
a bartender too, so I noticed in the bar scene is people don't really talk about their parents relationship as much as they did
Hmm.
when I was younger, or their grandparents relationships. And I was like, that was such a big thing. Like, my grandparents had an amazing relationship. They were married 52
Wow.
years, 7 kids, and there were just a lot of beautiful moments. And that is what I aspired my relationship to be. But I can't imagine telling my kid now, yeah, me and your mom met on Tinder, and she just happened to swipe right on me. Like
Totally.
you see, there's no nuance there. There's no.
Gravity.
I don't see that really
Yeah,
being
no,
inspiring
totally.
to anybody.
I mean, stories right now. It's a big way that people are meeting. Curious. I'm very curious about more like longitudinal side of these studies. Like how long has Tinder been around? Really, 10 years, something like that.
I want to say a little bit
But like,
more. I don't quote me on this, but I want to say 2008 was the inception of
okay,
Tinder,
that's the when I
if
started
I'm
social
correct.
fluency. Um, but that's still not a long time, you know?
It's
So for
not.
us to say like, oh, successful relationship and successful relationship, well, we don't know exactly how these relationships are going to hold up in the long term. Um,
Mhm.
like the the kids that these people are having aren't even 18 yet. So there might be just a drop off of divorces when the kids have moved out, which I first of all, let me just say, as a
Yeah.
child of a divorced couple who are now remarried and have nuclear families with 2 kids each and great partners, I would 100% recommend again staying together for the kids. It's bad advice. Find love for the kids. Show the kids what being looks
Yeah.
like. Show the kids how you can respect someone that you um, were married to, and now you can raise kids together, but not be in love with them. Like there's all sorts of great lessons to teach kids that isn't staying together. So just a little.
I think one of the most important lessons my mom ever taught me, because my parents weren't together, was the art of
Mm,
civility, which I feel like is lost today. She was like, I may not love the man who is your father, but she was like, I know how to be cordial because we have to create a healthy environment for you. And I was like, that's
totally.
huge. I was like, and that's a principle that I say that you can take into every relationship as well. I was like, you may not love all of your coworkers or your management staff, but you have to find some way to get along with them so that you're being productive, that you can maintain your
Totally.
paycheck.
There's always going to be
Same with
there's
like,
always going to be people that
yeah.
are a little. One of my students is traveling in Costa Rica, and I was like, "How's the trip going?" And he's traveling with an ex sort of thing,
Mm,
and he's like ups and downs. I'm like, "Oh, everything cool with your ex?" And he's like, "Yeah, no, we're having a great time. there's just people that are kind of making it weird and like kind of like coming into our space. And I'm like, that's travel, man. Like, just have fun. Like, there's always going to be people that are annoying.
But
Just be
yeah,
cool, kill them with kindness, smile, and move on and go get yourself a margarita somewhere. You know, it's fine.
don't let them write the plot for you. You go out and you
Exactly. It's for
create
the
your own
plot.
plot. Okay.
I know how that. You know.
Yeah, 100%. You're gonna leave here
Yeah,
just
my
gonna use
wife's
that
gonna
all the
be like,
time. Your
"Can
wife's
you
gonna be like, "Where
stop?"
did you get that from?" Like, are you writing a book? Like, what do you
Well, my
mean for the
wife's 10
plot?
years. The
Oh,
purveyor of
geez.
these pieces of information helps me out.
I loved our conversation today, but I can't invite you into the Bachelor Pad and not have you sit down for a
Okay.
quickie, because who doesn't love a
Yeah.
quickie? You know,
Question.
and they're just like a couple quick fire
Sure.
questions. You don't have to think too hard about them. I just really want to see what your gut reaction is to them. They get a little more difficult
Okay.
as we go through. First question is, so I'm gonna leave this specifically to your partner, since you are partnered right now. Is, what is your favorite way to show intimacy?
We do down and eat dinner together when we're both in town and we're both, at home. We sit down and I love to cook. And so I usually cook dinner and we sit down and we have another. We don't have kids. We're not planning on having kids, but we have like a family dinner. And that has acted as a grounding for our relationship. I'm aware of what's going on in her life. She's aware with what's going on in my life. And we just have this, half hour long hangout while we eat. And then we, watch something and make love, and all those things are nice parts of the intimacy. But I was saying to I'm rant here. I was saying to a student, there's 3 things that you need for a successful relation. You got to want to grow with the person. Like, you got to both be in self-development. You got to laugh with the person. You got to keep things light and be like seeing the ridiculousness of it all. And then you got to want to fuck the person. And so those are the 3 things in that order. You can't leave wanting to fuck that person.
Ooh,
You have to first have that shared curiosity about self-development and growth. Then you have to laugh together. And then you have to enjoy fucking each other.
I like that. Good thing comes in threes, and those are 3 really just beautiful things: growth, laughter,
Yep.
and fucking. The only other thing that I love doing more
Well,
is
hey,
eating.
I'm
So, I
cooking.
mean, if you add that into there, then I'm set. As somebody who has their own platform, their own the business, this is a question that I've been asked this year. So I really wanted to extend the olive branch to somebody else. What is there somebody who I wanted to work with, but just haven't had the chance to yet? I know it's different, like in our coaching space, but like, if you could like work with anybody,
Wow.
who would that be and why?
Question. I really like Scott Galloway, right? Professor. He is on Instagram. He's
Okay,
just
yeah.
like got a really good take. He talks about men's issues a lot. Really good take um the situation that's happening. And I think he just brings like kind of a level-headed kind of like a more level-headed Jordan Peterson without like the religious side of it. He's like more of like a technical
Okay, yeah.
MBA version of that. Yeah.
Okay. What is one piece of advice that you wish you could share with your younger self? I
Yeah,
know, a
okay,
little bit more
yeah.
thought
Because
provoking. I
if I'm
know.
something, it's probably something to the effect, you're only here for a little while. Don't take it all seriously and enjoy it while you have it. Because I'm like 4 now, and I've always loved sports and things like that, and it's just interesting to see my body changing and my recovery time taking longer and all these sorts of things. Just say, yeah, enjoy it and don't take it so seriously.
This one is, I think some people think it's a little morbid, but I don't. I think it
Hmm.
it speaks to legacy. When you're gone, what is one thing that you hope that people remember you by?
I hope that people remember as a good hang.
That's important, you know. That's especially in like the bromance that
Mhm.
we all have nowadays is he
Exactly.
was just fun to be around. You know, that I would be more than happy to have anybody
Dude,
say
if
that
that's on my
about me at any
epitaph,
point in time, whether I'm
here
here or
lies
not.
Devon O'Brien
Yeah,
Ash, a good hang, I'd be okay with that.
yeah. Well, it depends who wrote it. Oh well, I'm so sorry. I
Well, my
really
wife would
almost
be
had
writing it.
the most
My
trash
wife
thing to
would be
say.
writing it. It would be double
Um,
entendre for her.
exactly. That's I was like, you know what? I was
Yeah,
like,
you
am I
went
really
there.
gonna go there right now? I was like, no. I did. Listen, dumpster fire here.
I
Listen,
respect
I
it.
don't have a choice. It's in my nature. And then last question I have for you, because I think everybody has such a different definition of this. I'm just
Hmm.
trying to get it more concise. In your own words, what does it mean when you hear somebody says, we're just casually dating?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's such a word game. We're dating, we're casually dating, we're seeing each other, we're hanging out. So what is dating to me? Casually dating means we are sleeping together. We have no exclusive arrangement, and there's no expectation. Not to say that the relation, like a possible long-term relationship, isn't in the cards. It's just that there is no kind of rules, guidelines. That's what casually dating. Yeah.
I like that. Yeah. And that's kind of where that's the boat that I live in too. Hopefully
Yeah.
we can get more people to come aboard. So I mean, is there any other kind, you know?
The boat's a rock.
No, definitely come a knocking, 100%. Uh, no, I think that's one of the wildest things. When I was in university, I had this friend who, by far, I think may be responsible for my
Hmm.
quote unquote sexual awakening, because this man, he was a later in life student. I think he was like 47 when I met him. I'm
Wow.
18. He's 47. Huge, huge, yeah. But the man was a party. He just listening to his stories and then the crap that he got us into. I definitely do not think I'd be. I don't think I'd be half as funny or half as
Laid.
or yeah. Well, I mean that too. If it wasn't for
Wow.
him and just like you know
Wow. What a
his little
cool thing to have a
mantras.
mentor like that.
I think, and that's just the crazy thing is everybody. I've always
Me
been the
too.
baby out of my
Me
friend
too.
group.
Growing up, now I'm the old
So
man. To be
yeah,
honest, I'm always with hanging out with younger people. Not always, but a lot of the time.
I think now I'm
Yeah.
stretching on both sides. Being in the service industry, you always have those young kids in there. I'm gonna stop calling them kids. Like I was having a talk with my coworker the other day, and he's like, "Dude, I'm only 3 years younger
Yeah,
than you."
but
But I was like,
really,
"But mentally, I can see we're in different spots right now." So I was like, "It's hard." I was like, "We're not the same, and you are a different generation." But no, I was like, my oldest friend, Jimbo, turned 75 this year. So I was like, I still hang out. You know, I was like, I'm hanging out with 70. I'm hanging
wow.
out with senior citizens, man. I'm hanging out with like people in their
Yeah.
50s and their
Well,
60s.
I played ball.
Our guest
I
previously,
played ball, so I
oh,
like
so
these
you
old
know what I'm
guys.
talking
Yeah,
about. You know what
totally.
I'm talking about. Yeah. Yeah. I was like, I can
Yeah.
get down with some shuffleboard. You guys don't even know what shuffleboard badminton. Don't get me started. But yeah, so I was like, even still, I was like, older people know how to
For
party.
sure, man.
I'm gonna say that. I'm not gonna
For
discount
sure.
them. You know, if you guys want, if you don't go to the nightclub, guys. If you really want to have a good time, go to the Senior Citizen Center. I
Bingo.
guarantee. No, no. But Devin, thank you so much for coming on today, and just enlightening us on social fluency. I think one of the biggest takeaways that I hope that everybody gets today is to be bold. You know, let's go back to just being people focused, and take the effort to connect
Yeah.
with somebody in person when you feel it, and also just be the best version of you. Don't be you.
Hmm.
Just be the best version of you. The way I describe self improvement, I was like, I don't like to make it seem like it's this haughty thing. I was like, it's just like cooking, guys. Like anytime you pass on a family recipe, I was like, you always keep the best parts and then you just tweak everything to your own taste. Like just be the salt and pepper in your life today, just that's it. Just be the salt and pepper.
Nice. Very
You know?
cool.
Yeah. Yeah. But before we get out of here, is there anything that you want to share with us? Any thoughts, any big projects coming up? Just what's
Yeah.
happening with you?
Well, I'm on Hot Ones. What's the end of Hot Ones is always someone crying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this
What do
camera,
we got
that
going
camera,
on? They're
that
like,
camera. Yeah.
so I have Fluency is the brand, and if anyone who's listening to this is curious about how they can level up their communication skills, and you want to work with someone who's got over a decade and a half of experience in this field, go to socialfluency.com and you can check out, if you're not ready to kind of get on a call with me or anything like that, just check out the free course, see if you like it, and if it's of value to you, then reach out and let's see if I can help you out.
Well, guys, I will make sure to put that website down in the link below so that it's easy for you to find, because it doesn't matter if it's with me, if it's with Devon or whoever. The most important part that we all just hope for is that you start a journey where you can learn to love yourself and that you lead a happy life, because that's really, at the end of the day, I don't want to speak for you, but I was like, that's all I care about is, just hoping everybody's happy and living their best life. Because like you said, we're not here for a long time. So we got to enjoy
Yeah,
what life we have to
couldn't agree
live.
more.
Well, guys, thank you for making it through another episode of the Not So Bad Bachelor Pad. Don't forget to hit that like button, the subscribe button. Go ahead. Why not? Just, you're feeling generous today. Leave 5 stars. Go on over and show Devon some love. And I will see all you amazing people on the next episode of the Not So Bad Bachelor Pad.